a researcher and industry expert in haptics and wearable technology. Today, I will discuss how businesses and also nonprofit organizations can benefit from haptics and XR field. We'll also talk about future of arts and technology. And today, my guest is Linda Ricci. Linda is a senior executive and a recognized thought leader in the VR, AR, XR, metaverse space. And most recently, she is leading global strategic partnerships for the 150 million Meta Immersive Learning Fund. Linda is also an artist in the XR space, having her work featured at Burning Man VR, Web XR Awards, and XR Women. Hello, Linda.
Hi.
How are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me, Yulia.
And thank you for your time joining us and having this. I'm really excited about this conversation with you. I was thinking maybe we could start by talking about your passion for XR because you have so much experience in this field. Could you please share your passion, how it started actually? Why XR, why metaverse?
Yeah, it started way before there was a word called metaverse, actually. When I was applying for grad school in the late 80s, because I was 3. I keep making that joke and nobody laughs. I was not 3. I don't remember, to be perfectly honest, how I knew about VR at the time. I know I heard about it. I was in school in Europe and I was obsessed. The idea of world building and the idea of experimenting with different gravities and different environments and like what life would come from that. I really wanted to explore world building. I mean, I don't even know if it was called world building at the time. All I know is I typed it on my grad school application, sent it off on a piece of paper. And of course I don't have a copy of what I wrote, but I've been obsessed kind of with that thought ever since then. And then in 1994, I was in Hanover at CeBIT. And Silicon Graphics had a whole hall at the time. There's 26 halls. It was massive. And there was a guy on a stage, on a round stage, up on a podium, and he had what probably fits in our pocket in terms of computing power. But at the time, it was, a whole bunch of rows of computers, and he had a big screen, and he was doing 3D graphics. And I just remember I stood there for like hours, and I'm like, that's what I want to get involved in. I had absolutely no idea how to get involved with it. I got my MBA in Holland. I was living and working there. I knew nothing about what was happening in California at the time. This was pre-internet. So I just remember it was a long time coming. And then I actually ended up carving out a career doing business strategy consulting for companies that were dealing with emerging tech, either impacting on their markets or something internally they had to stay competitive. And so I was a hired gun around innovation, essentially, and helping them understand what the impact was for them, what that meant in terms of markets, products, distribution, partnerships, all that stuff. And then in 2017, actually, I decided, all right, XR is finally commercial enough, mass commercial enough that I'm just going to stop being a innovation for hire, kind of any innovation, and I want to focus on the XR space. I ended up doing a TEDx talk around virtual reality and grassroots movements and how I think social VR is really going to help people connect across the world.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a question about that one later.
And kind of just taken off from there. So I ended up at Meta last year doing global partnerships for the Immersive Learning Fund. They are spending an awful lot of money to make sure that people around the world are trained in how to make 3D graphics in XR so that there's a next generation of people who are ready. And then I ended up being a board member on the Virtual World Society and things like that. So I've just jumped all into the industry for the last 5 years, I guess, now. And I absolutely adore it. I mean, I found my tribe after all these years.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Interesting stuff. Very interesting. So you kind of observed the beginnings, right? And all the way till now. There will be so many new things coming, right?
Well, it's funny because some of it's not so new. So Second Life was around. I was working with clients about launching into Second Life and Fortune 200s back in 2009, I believe. And then 10 years before that, I was helping do the first generation of internet agencies. I was working at one of the largest ones in New York at the time before 9/11. And there was a big tech crash months before 9/11 anyway in New York. But I love the space where it's all still kind of the Wild West, where you're figuring it all out, because it tends to attract the really smart people with a really creative work. So a lot of this stuff reminds me of the early days of the internet.